Ladies and gentlemen of the class of '99.
Population growth has to come to an end.
Whereas if you have a declining population, which is what I would aim for, then of course even a stable economic growth situation will give you increases in per capita income. So that's where I stand.
There's something happening right now worldwide. There is I think a lot of us have felt the force of a concerted effort to try to tear us apart. And to some extent, it's working. And it comes under the guise of these words like controlled opposition. There is an effort right now to destroy, as the truth is coming out, to destroy the integrity and cohesion of the resistance groups all across the world. And it is a powerful force that's hitting us in every channel they can.
I never saw a case of cancer in an unvaccinated person. Now, he wrote this in 1936. So to me, that was quite a revelation. And other doctors have said the same thing, that vaccination is really a time bomb within the human system that can go off 5 years, 10 years, 40 years after the vaccination. You can have this time bomb go off. You could have a stroke, a heart attack, because it's always there in your system. You never get rid of it. And apparently it's always an alien force in your physique.
Is going to get worse.
The Band-Aid has been ripped off the entire vaccine agenda, Alex. And this is now doctors like myself are re-examining the whole rationale for, when I was born, there were 3 vaccines. 3. A child today now faces something like 72 injections. People are starting to question this aggressive vaccination schedule, actually vaccinating for easily treatable illnesses like bacterial infections like diphtheria and pertussis. People are starting to question the whole thing. I'm talking to more and more parents that say, you know what, we've lost our trust in vaccines overall.
As you can see, it's empty as hell.
No one's in there, guys.
It's absolutely dead.
Il y a personne. Regardez, on peut aller fouiller dans les couloirs, on peut faire absolument ce qu'on veut. Je comprends pas.
Not many people were in there at all.
Like a ghost town in this hospital.
We've just been locked down in Gloucestershire for an empty hospital. Look, I am so angry.
So there's nobody even in there?
Nobody's in there.
Nobody's in the hospital. How is that possible in a medical pandemic?
That's fake news, that's why. That's fake news, that's why. That's fake news, that's why.
What we've just experienced over the last 3 years is just a tiny slice of what they're planning to do to us. And if we're gonna be able to succeed, we got to hang together, as Benjamin Franklin said, or we are certainly going to hang separately. Thanks.
including Bill Gates and David Rockefeller and Ted Turner and other extremely powerful people, who were meant specifically to talk about the problem of the growing human population and how they can combine their wealth and resources to do something about that problem. This is something that's reiterated time and time again by people in positions of power and people of great wealth, like Prince Philip and his friends.
What do you see as the biggest challenges in conservation?
The growing human population. Because if where we are, there's nothing else.
The negative impact of population growth on all of our planetary ecosystems is becoming appallingly evident.
I suspect that you could read a score of reports by bodies concerned with global problems and see that population is clearly one of the drivers that underlies them all.
In the long run, population growth has to come to an end. People will say that in the long run we are going to stabilize. They're going to stabilize, as far as I can see, at a rather higher level than the Earth can really accommodate.
We've got to stabilize the population. When I was born, there were
so what's wrong with the population? I mean,
with too many people. That's why we have global warming. We have global warming because too many people are using too much stuff. But if there were less people, they'd be using less stuff.
First, we've got population. The world today has 6.8 billion people. That's headed up to about 9 billion. Now, if we do a really great job on new vaccines, health care, reproductive health services, we could lower that by perhaps 10 or 15%.
That unless something is done about population, most other efforts will fail. And eventually we set up an organization called the UN Fund for Population Activities, which aimed to help developing countries deal with their population issues. You have to get population under control as well, because if you look at it in sheer economic terms, how can you sustain increases in per capita income at a time when you have rising population without rising economic growth? Whereas if you have a declining population, which is what I would aim for, then of course even a stable economic growth situation will give you increases in per capita income. So that's where I stand.
Here we can see a chart that looks at the total world population over the last several hundred years. And at first glance, this is a bit scary. We go from less than 1 billion in 1800, and then 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7.4 billion where we are today is happening even faster. So Melinda and I wondered whether providing new medicines and keeping children alive, would that create more of a population problem? What we found out is that as health improves, families choose to have less children. And this effect is very, very dramatic. We find that in every country of the world, this is repeated. The population growth goes down as we improve health.
And I remember that a lady told you that she had had 8 children, and 4 of them had died in childbirth, or shortly thereafter. But if all of them had survived, she'd have 8 children. And what the developing world does not need is more children.
And I think that was the biggest aha to Bill and me when we got into this work, is we asked ourselves, of course, the same hard-nosed question you'd ask, which is, if you get into this work and you start to save these children, will women just keep overpopulating the world? And thank goodness the converse is absolutely true.
So right now what you see is it's squeezing higher education. You're raising tuitions at the University of California as rapidly as they can. And so the access that used to be available to the middle class or whatever is just rapidly going away. That's a trade-off society is making because of very, very high medical costs and a lack of willingness to say, is spending $1 million on that last 3 months of life for that patient, would it be better not to lay off those 10 teachers and to make that trade-off in medical costs? But that's called the death panel, and you're not supposed to have that discussion.
I could go on and on and on and on, and in fact my attentive long-term listeners will know that none of these quotations or things that I'm pulling out are startlingly new. You will have heard them before in work that I have done on these subjects in the past. These are literally just things that I'm coming up with off the top of my head on this particular subject of population control in various forms. So this is all well documented, but no matter how many different pieces of information we add to this list, will it ever really convince the unconvincible who are choosing to ignore this information or to put it to the side or to try to dismiss it in some way? And the answer, of course, is no.
The rate of mortality is increasing, and the natality is decreasing. More people are dying, and fewer children are being born. You can't bullshit these numbers. And the numbers, the raw data, is telling a horrifying story. And it's not a story that people are going to be talking about in mainstream media for a long time until all of a sudden people start to say, what the hell is going on? And they're going to start saying that real soon.